configuration management database. So far we talked about incident, problem, change, right? You talk about incident. Incident is tightly integrated with the CMDB configuration management. Okay. If I'm selecting CI here, let us say I'm selecting, some CI, this one. And then as soon as I selected, you can see some macros. Okay. They are available for you to show how this CI is, related. If you open this, dependency view, okay, you can see how this CI is related with other CI. Okay, what is that? You can see the view out of it. Like if the CI is related with other CI, you can see that. And then also, okay, where exactly this CI is created? This CI is created as a computer in the background. Okay, and then also if same thing, like is attached with the problem management. Now configuration item is having email as a CI. If I open a email as a CI, you can see the dependency view of the email, how this email configuration, you can see there is an email, and then email is having some upstream connections, and so there are some downstream connections. There are, some independent connections. All of them were appropriately visualized here. This will help you to take a decision. Okay, I'm making a change, or I'm making, I'm working on a particular CI, but that CI is how tightly integrated with other CIs in the environment. What are the affected CIs? Okay, what is the relation between this CI with these affected CIs? Okay, if I'm making a change on this configuration item, what will happen on the affected CIs? Are they also going to be affected? If they are also affected, what should be the overall risk impact? Okay, what is the risk impact? So you can see this incident, problem, change, and then configuration of my item are, completely integrated. Okay, so CMDB, if you look into it for incident process or a problem process or a change process, the backbone is configuration management. Okay, so the advantage of the configuration management in ServiceNow is this will help you to track all the configuration items, all the configuration items in infrastructure. Okay, so logically in ServiceNow. Okay, when you look into the configuration, okay, in the ServiceNow system. Okay, when I said configuration item, which means it's an infrastructure element. It could be a server, it could be a router, it could be Java server, and it could be a Linux server, it could be X server, or a personal computer, or a switch, or a network card, or it could be a rack, or it could be slot, or it could be a card, or it could be, a network site. All these are all various classes. Okay, so all these infrastructure elements in ServiceNow are logically logically organized in your CMDB. Okay, logically organized. All the application servers are logically arranged. All the servers are logically arranged. All the clusters, database servers, instances, catalogs, network devices, load balancers, data centers. Okay, infrastructure services like email, FTP servers, and all, and then virtual machines. Okay, Hyper-Vs. Okay, KVMs. Okay, from the Linux context. Okay, automation servers or base items which will help you to capture all the software CIs, or particularly like MS Office, and then all of them will be captured here. Also the computers, personal devices, printers, UPSs. So you can see what not, you have in your infrastructure space. You as a technology company, you are managing an IT infrastructure to provide some level of services. As part of your services delivery, you need some IT infrastructure support, right? So if it's a large scale organization, you will have plenty of configuration items. All these configuration items are logically organized in your ServiceNow system. Okay, let us say I want to create one CI. Okay, for example, I'm creating one CI. Okay, let's say I want to create one Linux server. Yeah, I want to create one Linux server. So here, this is how I will come up. I will come down to Linux server, and then I'll be creating a new Linux server. Okay, so Linux 123. Okay, this is my server name. When I said when I'm creating a configuration item, as I said, this always talks about the independent. Okay, independent, elements, particularly related to the configuration item, all the RAM or CPU. This is what we took as an example, right? When we are talking about change management. If we are making a change, what are we doing? We are making a change to some, 124 GB2, RAM2, like we'll be making changes to something else. Okay. Whatever the change that you are making, okay, maybe it's currently right now it's an MB. Okay, let's say 1024. This is what right now you want to change it to something else. So you will be making a change. Okay, what is the name? Test host name. Okay, what is the operating system? You can say what kind of operating system is the Red Hat Linux, and then version, and you will provide all this disk. What is the disk space you have? Some 1 TB. Okay, right now it's in GB. So if it is a GB, you can say this is the IP address. Okay, you will provide something like this, and then other details you will be able to provide. And who is actually right now is owning this particular server. So you can say that like this person is having, and then you can provide the serial number of it. And if this is owned by some company, you can provide this particular company name. Okay. Now after saving this, okay, you can see that after saving this particular CI record, and you will notice some details. Okay, here when I saved it, okay, if this CI is need to be recorded in the asset management, then you can see you can relate it with some asset tag, because asset is like you're talking more about financials, right? We talked about it. So CI talks more about infrastructure element, asset talks more about the financial aspect. So you can attach your asset tag and then other related details here. Okay, so now I have created a Linux server 12344. Now copy this one into the notepad. Okay, now I have this one. Now let me create one database server. Okay, I'm going to create one DB2 server. Okay, I'm trying to create one DB2 server. Now this is my testing DB2 123. This is my DB2 server. I'm creating DB2 server. I can provide the version details, and then who will be actually taking the ownership out of it. So I can say somebody is owner for this particular one. If I say support group, I can do that as well. Now DB2 server is created successfully. Now here I am talking about DB2 server. In reality, how does it work? The DB2 server should have been hosted on something, right? So this is where like you will relate your DB2 server with your Linux server if you wish. Okay, you can create a relationship like this. You can create a relationship like this and say that okay, you want to have hosted. Okay, you want to have it hosted on something, like you can select this hosted on, and or when you say hosted on, what kind of a CI it could be. You can host a DB2 server on a Linux or a Windows server or on a AX server, right? Particularly on the operating server. So you say that like this is a filter. Okay, is a class is a server, and then location could be anything. Now search for your server. Here I have a Linux server created. Let's see if that Linux server is available here. I have created a Linux server which is available here. Okay, you can see this particular Linux server is available. Now, what you can do is you can add this particular relationship. Okay, now you have this save. Save option should be available here. Okay, now you can see I have created it. Okay, this is also helping me. I said hosted and parent is this one and child is this one. Now I successfully created the two CIs. Okay, I created a DB2 server, I created a Linux server. Now you come down to this particular child, okay, DB2 server, for example. Now tomorrow you are trying to make a change on this DB2 server. Okay, now go to incident. Okay, probably you are trying to connect to a DB2 server. DB2 server is not working. You select that DB2 server here. If I selected a DB2 server here, okay, this is not showing me. Okay, this is not showing me why. Let's go to configuration item.
It will not save.
Yeah, it will not save. I'm just trying to see why this configuration item field is not allowing me to show that DB2 server. The reference qualification should be something. Maybe we need to make it operational. Only live CIs should be available here. Could be some you know condition in the background. Let's look into the reference qualification. Okay, go to the reference qualification. It is saying it is should be available for incident and problem index of current sysclass plus 1 is equal to -1. Operational status is not in new. Operational status should be filtered by something like, see the basically DB2 server, whichever we created. This is the DB2 server which we created. Okay. Now go to DB2 server. Why it's taking too much time? Okay. For a moment, just this condition, remove this. It's taking quite long time. What is saved, but still taking time. Let me reload it. Yeah, we can see this is the DB2 server, and we created a relationship. It did not save. Why? Posted on. Posted on. This is the Linux server. I want to create the relationship. It's done. Now save this. Okay. Now successfully saved. Go to DB2 server. Open the DB2 server. And then now you should be showing me under related items like this. You can see this is hosted on so and so. And if you open up the dependency view, you can see the DB2 server is installed on Linux server. Okay, this is how you can see if I'm making a change to Linux server, then immediately will come to know this DB2 server will be impacted. So now come down to your incident table or another table. Okay, go to your incident section. And type incident. Tomorrow, if there is any incident generated, you can attach this particular CI, either your Linux server or a DB2 server. You can see the respective dependency view also will be displayed from here. Okay, DB1, 1, 2. This is my server name. Let's see if my system is going to show some recommendation. 112, 1212. All databases itself is not coming. At least like let's see Linux. Linux server that I created also is not coming. We change the configuration item dictionary value, but still it is not showing. It is coming from configuration item field. Perfect. Let's go back. This is my Linux server name. And coming from CMDB underscore CI underscore Linux server. Go to this one. This is that is system should show Linux server. Yeah, here on the incident screen, it is not coming. We need to check why. But see, you can see this is selected here. If I'm opening it up, you can see the dependency view. Yeah. So the Linux server and on top of it, the database server is hosted. So this is how your CIs will help you to provide all the configuration item information. At the same time, this also will tell you how this particular CI is related with others using your relationship within the dependency view. Okay. And when it comes to the CMDB, as I said, it's a very, very vast topic. Here, for what you need to learn from CMDB standpoint is how these classes are structured. Right now, we talked about databases. We talked about Linux servers. So every single thing in ServiceNow is completely managed under class manager. This will give you, complete view of how this CMDB is structured. So the whole CMDB, works in terms of, extension, table extensions, which is something like learned. When we create a table, we can have it extended from some table, right? If you go to this table, Linux server, CMDB underscore CI Linux server, this is the table name. You can see this table is extended from server. The name of the server table is CMDB underscore CI underscore server. You need to remember this. So you can see this has been come from this table, extended from this table. And if you open this particular table, you can see this table is extended from some other table. Okay, from the computer. Okay, this table is extended from computer table. And computer table is extended from hardware table. Okay, you can see that is extended from hardware table. Okay, and hardware table is extended from again configuration item. This is the base class in ServiceNow. You can see there are 5 layers of your relationships. That thing you can clearly visualize here. Now I'm saying that Linux server, right? Linux server. When I said Linux server, so Linux server, this is what we realized, by going into the tables, right? Linux server come from server, server come from computer, computer come from hardware, hardware come from configuration item. So like that, this is all structured. Now, if I go to hardware, and hardware can contain multiple chain terms. So, okay, let's say hardware, and then hardware has, various other things within that, what do you want to manage? You can do that. Okay. So you need to, you as a administrator, you as a ServiceNow system administrator or a CMDB administrator, you need to know how these classes are interrelated. Okay, what is a CI? What is an asset? How these CIs are created? What are the various data sources, that will be available for CMDB? Because CMDB data is not that manually we will be creating it. We can, because in reality, there will be lakhs of configuration items in the environment. So how these CIs are getting really, deployed into the CMDB? Are we going to create manually all of them? No. For the CMDB, the data source can be, your manual import, or it can be ServiceNow Discovery or some other third-party discovery, or in SCCM or any other monitoring tool. There are various data sources that can populate your ServiceNow CMDB. Okay. Now, if we are saying that various data sources that are bringing data into CMDB, then what happens? There is a possibility of having duplicate IDs created, right? There is a possibility because your monitoring tool is discovering data in a different way, and ServiceNow tool is discovering data in a different way. You are manually importing. So how ServiceNow will manage all this? So ServiceNow has a feature to manage your duplicate requests. So you can have how these CIs are coming in. What are the different identifiers? So, for example, if I'm talking about Linux server, go back to Linux server. For every CI, we will be identifying some unique attributes. Okay. If you look into the Linux, okay, we will be talking about serial number is one of the key attribute that we will be, making sure this is a unique identifier. Okay. And similarly, like, for serial number and name of the server can be unique sometimes. And MAC address is always like, going to be unique. So you will use these unique identifiers to reconcile your data. Okay, you can reconcile your data. You can write a reconciliation rule. Okay, either you want to merge or you want to delete or you want to leave. So you can reconcile based on your identification. So this is the beauty of ServiceNow. So when there is a new CI is creating and you need to identify, okay, what are all those key parameters, and on top of it, you will be writing a reconciliation process to ensure we are not creating any duplicate records in the ServiceNow system. And then also, if there is any new CI data is coming in, you can always suggest, for example, let us say if it is a Linux server, okay, if it is a Linux server, according to, according to the best practices, the Linux server, when you are trying to say a Linux server with a, Citrix, then, you will be stored on or contained. Okay. If it is a database, we will use, hosted on, or if it is a cluster, we will use member of. If it is a power, we will use, derived. Okay. So these are some of the suggested relationships. So we talked about database and Linux server, right? We said hosted on. Hosted on is the, hosted on is the best recommendation. Okay. ESX server, virtualized by Linux server. So how these two different classes are related. So this will give you some suggestions. Either you want to follow, or if your customer is saying, no, we want to have a different type of a relationship between these two entities, we will do follow that as well. Okay. And you can see this is all relationship rules, which we were talking about it, like, the same thing, but this is like, a consolidated relationship rule against the Linux server. We just talked about it, right? Hosted on. Okay. So for database, so this will be hosted on. If it's a ESX server, so it will be, you know, something else. So again, if it is a service, depends on. Okay. So depends on, like, servers, depends on the other classes, you will be picking up the right relationship rule. And other important thing, when it comes to the CMDB, as a CMDB administrator, you are responsible for maintaining the completeness of this data. Okay, let us say if I'm talking about a configuration item, okay, some configuration item called a Linux server. So how best that Linux server is, completed. Okay, what is the scorecard? Right now you can see there are 67 records are need to be updated, but only 33 fields are, like, filled in. What are the recommended fields for this particular Linux server to be updated? And then, those fields will be used in your scorecard. Okay. And then compliance. When it comes to the compliance, again, like, you need to follow some fields, certain standards to make sure, like, you are compliant with the environment. For example, let us say if the Linux server is having a different serial number, or if the Linux server is not having a proper assigned to, which means it's an orphan. So all that stuff you can maintain in your complex. And then correctness. What data is, like, is correct. I was talking about orphan rule also, right? So orphan. So again, like, right now the scorecard is less than our threshold. You always need to make sure, like, your scorecard is 100%. And what exactly you want to include in your health dashboard, and what do you do not want to include in your dashboard, you can make sure according to that you will be providing your health dashboards to your customer. So key important from the ServiceNow standpoint is you always need to make sure the health of ServiceNow is always good. Okay. You are managing the data, but you need to know how to manage the data. This will give you the list of CIs. So CI class manager will help you to configure all your identification, reconciliation, relationships, and then other related things. Okay. So again, if you come down to the configuration, there are various other elements. You as a configuration manager should have some level of grip on it. So we talked about class manager, and these are the groups. You remember, like, when I created as a Linux group, Linux or a database, the system has asked me, like, to provide a support group. You will be creating it, and then queries. if you are trying to pull the data, so we will use these query builders and reports, anything related to the CMDB data, like we will be building reports. These reports will be shared with your senior managers. So this is also your job, and we know how to create a report now. Okay. And then dashboards. These dashboards will help you to give you quick view about your CMDB health. Okay, how this CMDB is loaded, how good is that CMDB, what is the correctness, what is the complaints, and what is the how many orphan records we have, all of them, and followed by the subsequent classes. Okay, so this is how you will actually deal with your ServiceNow system. Okay, so these are the dashboards. This is also one of your important activity, how to create a report and add it to your dashboards. Okay, so as I said, okay, CMDB is kind of a vast topic. Okay, you need to know how to create slowly, like each and every single element in ServiceNow. Okay, I'll share some additional details, but my role here at the moment is like to give you a high level view of the CMDB. What do we mean by class? Okay, what do we mean by class manager? How do we use class manager? What is a CI? How to what is a relationship? Okay, what are the various classes we have, and how these classes can be related? Okay, and how these dependency views can be used on respective processes like incident, problem, and change processes. So being this is a overview session, like I'm giving you at a high level picture, but just to talk about CMDB, is we have a dedicated course at all. Like for example, if you pick up this course, it's a 2 to 3 days of course wherein this would demand around 20 hours of education on this. So we'll not be able to do everything in this short. Instead of confusing, I'm giving you high level overview of CMDB, and I do share some documentations and important videos. Please spend time and then make sure you are familiar with this one. And remember, now looking at the digitalization phase where we are going in post COVID, so most of the companies are going towards cloud